There really are great joys in adopting a pet during the autumn or winter of his life. Any of you who's been watching me post on Facebook all weekend know I've been a Facebook posting fool between Father's Day and my youngest son's 13th birthday. Haiku, who you can see on the backdrop behind me because he's sleeping off his celebration right now in the other room, just turned 13, and he's one of the few dogs in my life that I actually adopted as a puppy. Although he was a puppy, the reason he came into my life at that point in time was because I had recently, like within 11-month period, had lost 3 of my senior dogs, all due to, them getting older and it being time for them to go on to their next chapter. But my heart was truly broken, and the Akita rescue I was volunteering at that point in time said, you need to foster this puppy, knowing that I would absolutely be a foster failure. Well, there was another motive with adopting Haiku at that point in time. He had actually been found wandering the deserts in California at about 4 weeks of age and had been thrown into the local animal shelter, and the Akita rescue bailed him out quickly, but then, obviously wanted him into a home at that young of an age. But I, at that point in time, had, I guess about 10 months before, adopted Mr. Rico, my black lab that some of you may have seen great photos of. And Rico was about 10 years old himself. And, it can go either way when you're adopting a puppy or when you're adopting a kitten and have an older pet at home. The young one can just terrorize and stress out the older pet, or they can actually breathe a breath of fresh air of life into them. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, it's so important that you make sure the older pet has a place to get away to chill out when that puppy or that kitten is making him nuts, which Haiku did, of course, to Mr. Rico. But we also saw as the weeks and months went by that Haiku just energized Mr. Rico. And I guess it was about a month later, Bonsai, who you see here, my beautiful Pinto White Akita, also joined the family. And boy, did she do amazing things to train Haiku to grow up. She really potty trained him better than I could. She taught him to learn his manners. If he stepped out of line, she grabbed him in her front arm and held him to his chest while he was just going, ah, until he calmed down. So it was just amazing to see my 3-pack in action. They were very amazing. And even though we're talking about seniors today, I just wanted to share that with you about Haiku, because the fact that he was adopted as a puppy but really breathed that breath of fresh air into the older pet and energized him. Mr. Rico lived well past age 15. And I think Haiku actually had a lot to do with that, because he had a little brother he had to stick around and take care of. But what I want to talk about right now is that even though Haiku is now a senior, he just had 13 birthdays on his 13 candles on his birthday cake this weekend, I'd like to talk about the joys of adopting a pet in the autumn or winter of his life. It's no coincidence that that's the name of my book on senior pet care, The Autumn and Winter of Your Pet, Make the Senior Years Golden. And I do now have available a self-guided journey that you can take. It's about 3 hours long. There's a quiz that follows to get a certificate in caring for senior pets. But what I just want you to bring to mind, that next time you're around to adopt, really don't pass over those seniors who very often, the dogs and cats that are a little gray in the muzzle, get passed over in the shelters, and they just have so much life to live. They've generally grown into their paws and their personalities. You know how big they're going to get. I just hate that when I go to a shelter and see a dog, a German Shepherd was returned because we didn't know he was going to get this big. People need to do their research, because when you're adopting an animal, you're adopting him for the life of that animal. Hey, Sean, so nice to have you join in today. But they often already know some of their house training. They generally know what no means. Whether they choose to abide by it all the time is another rule, but you need to reinforce that. You positively can teach an old dog new tricks, and you should. I think that was my blog a couple of weeks ago, but it stimulates the mind and keeps them active and keeps them young. Exercise is for an older dog like for an older person, because not only does it keep the joints moving and the weight down and just, being able to move better, but it nourishes the brain with that life-giving blood and oxygen, and may just ward off cognitive dysfunction in our dogs and cats. So cats, I always say the best exercise is to adopt a second cat, because they keep each other busy. But if you can't do that, get out those feathered toys or the ping pong balls, or there's so many things on the market where cats can get some exercise. Dogs, it does our health good to get out and walk them and keep their brains as well as their bodies nourished. But back to seniors, they're often, much more mellow. They're not spastic. Haiku was just a spastic little kid. And you know what? At age 13, he's actually still a little spastic. But they very often, when you adopt a senior, they just want to be with you. And then that allows you to have more time, because you're not answering nature's call at 2 a.m., at 6 a.m. You're not having to feed every 4 to 6 hours. You're not having to entertain them all the time. You do every day want to take a moment and be in the now. Be present with your pet. Be like they are. And really, take time to smell the flowers, enjoy their fur, notice the breeze kissing your face and blowing their fur as well, and making those special moments together. But there are so many wonderful things about a senior. And I know the two big things that generally come up is that people don't want to adopt a senior because, one, there are going to be medical problems. Well, that's true. As all of us get older, things start to break down and hurt and, don't work the way they used to. But nothing is a given. Sometimes a puppy will go through a plethora of medical ailments. Before Haiku was 6, he had both knees replaced, for instance, and he's had a couple of cancer scares. That does happen. Other dogs will go their lifetime being, what do they say, strong as a horse, basically, without problems. So it's not a given. You may have to do that, but boy, everything I go kind of segues into something else, and it's just making me think. That's why I'm just so honored to be part of the Gray Muzzle organization, because what we do is we give grants to usually close to 50 shelters and rescues throughout the United States each year, and they in turn help senior dogs. And some of the things they're doing in different communities is they're actually using the money grants we've provided as vouchers to people so that they can retain their dogs. So often when, a senior or any dog has an issue, it can be a big medical bill, and people can't afford it, and they think it's kinder to relinquish their dog to the shelter that some other family will take care of them. Well, that's the last thing you want to have happen to a dog or a cat in his senior years, for him to lose his home. He doesn't understand, and I'm going to try not to get emotional. So I'm so, delighted to be part of Gray Muzzle, that we're through these other local shelters and rescues, we can provide vouchers so that that animal can get the blood test that he needs and find out if he needs medication, or maybe get an x-ray done. Maybe just get his teeth cleaned, because having a clean mouth, that bacteria doesn't travel to the brain, to the heart valves, to the kidney, the liver, and so on, and he can be a healthier pet. So often it's just lack of understanding, because it is a different species, and most of us haven't taken an animal care or pet parenting 101 class, and sometimes we think little things are much bigger than they are. So it's great to, check in with your local shelter, check resources, email me. I'll do my best to find somebody in your area, but it's very likely that if you're doing all you can and you can't quite do enough, there might be somebody that can help you keep you and your senior best friend together, because you never want that to happen. But the other reason sometimes people don't want to adopt seniors is because they think they're not going to have very long together. Well, you know what? None of us ever know how long we're going to have with each other or with the animals we have. Terrible, tragic things happen to puppies and kittens all the time, or adult dogs, or, young people. So the idea, again, is the lessons we can learn from our animals, to be in the moment like they are with us and cherish every moment, because there really are special moments. And I was talking to you last week about really remembering those little moments. Sometimes taking the picture of the dog eating his food, or the cat grooming herself, the dog playing with his toy, or going on your favorite walk. sometimes those are the moments that are going to mean the most to you when the animal's no longer with you, because those are the things you saw every day and experienced and lived through every day. Sure, it's great to get a great big family portrait with the dog or the cat too, but when they're no longer by your side, what you're going to remember and miss are their funny little antics. So those are the things you do want to capture. The only thing I want to put a little caveat on that is don't miss out being in the moment because you're so busy getting the photos or the selfies. We want those, but then put the camera away and really relish that moment and be in the present with your pets. So my point here is there just are great joys in adopting a pet during the later years in his lifetime. There's just so many wonderful love to give and share and moments to make. And if any of you haven't tuned in or noticed on Facebook, because I've been posting the heck out of it, I'm part of what's called the Aging Dog Summit. And actually my interview, it's about, I guess, 30 or 40 minutes where I talk about giving your senior pet a head to tail checkup, as well as some of those important memory making moments. It's actually only going to be available until 12:59 Eastern today. Every one of us, they had 17 senior pet experts speak, and each one is only available for 24 hours. But when this video concludes, you'll see in the post, there's a link. So if you can go ahead and catch it quickly, or if you want to watch me and all of the other people that talk about, and they've got some great veterinarians and some grief counselors and some people in hospice for pets. So there's wonderful information to garner. There's also a link where you can go ahead and you can purchase the whole package so that you can watch all of the episodes over and over at your leisure too. So I'll make sure that's in there. But what I just want you to think about is the next time you're ready to adopt or have a family member or a friend who's ready to adopt, really think about adopting a senior. Seniors are great with kids too because they're gentler and calmer. They're less likely to knock the kids over. They're, you know, any pet has to be supervised around young children. There's just no way around that. It's just an important part of pet parenting and human parenting. But the love of a senior is just a special bond, and we have been learning that children that bond with animals actually grow up to be more empathetic and sympathetic human beings. There's actually scientific proof now. It also builds up their immune systems, and you've heard me talk about Zoea, and I'm going to talk about that in July too, but about, you know, the positive health benefits and wellness pets have on our lives now, as well as scientifically proven, as well as, you know, so many of us having known this all of our lives. But you know, sometimes people with young kids think, well, then the kid's going to have to go through losing the pet soon. And it's possible, but like I said before, some pets live to be 6, some live up into their 20s. We never know. And life and death is something as humans we all have to learn and go through. I think I attended my first human funeral when I was about 6 years old. A dear friend that I called an uncle passed, and you know, I've been to many, many more since. So I'm always amazed when somebody's like in their teens or their 20s and has never been to a funeral. It's just something we all need to learn and deal with, and we need to, you know, have loved so deeply that it actually hurts to say goodbye. So please, you know, encourage people to adopt those senior pets. Check out the Aging Dog Summit. It's going on for several days. Like I said, my interview, I think, is only available until 12:59 Eastern today, but there are a lot of other people out there. And if you're somebody that's so inclined, I really would love if you'd go to my website, PetSafetyCrusader.com, and check out the autumn and winter of your pet and see the 3-hour certificate course I have that goes along with it. Or if you just want something a little bit more fun and lighthearted about adopting seniors, you know, there's Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover and the sequel, Start Off on the Right Paw, that not only both talk about adopting pets during their later years, but this one talks about how to introduce pets to each other so that when you're bringing that senior home or bringing another pet home to your senior, you do it right. You start off on the right paw. Just since I'm mentioning these, I will say this fall, the 3rd installment of the Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover series should be out, and it will star no less than Haiku, since Mr. Rico was the star of the first book and the Lady Bonsai starred in the second book. It's only fair. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today and listening to me talk about seniors. They just truly have a special place in my heart, and I hope you will find that special place in your heart for a senior dog or cat. Love to you all. Bye-bye for now.